regularly have conversations with people that they wonder about investing, they ask me questions, and then in the back of their mind they're wondering, I wonder if my financial advisor is doing this right or not. They're a nice person, and typically you get in the financial industry, you tend to be a people person. You're nice, you're fun to deal with, maybe nice to be around. But the question is, are things being done the way they ought to be done? And we don't want to find that out too late when it really gets down to it. So I'm going to give you a couple ways to kind of sneakily check up to see if investments are being done properly. And this might be even in your 401k at work. Now, why is this? Let's walk through something really fast and then I'm going to get into the rules. But the reason we tend to be a little bit nervous about investing is because we fear the future in general. So I have a fear of the future. That's number one. We have that, call that the first step. When I fear the future, I want to predict the future. What's going to happen next? And I typically don't know how to predict the future. I don't know who knows, but maybe somebody does. Well, how about this? How about the person that predicted some of the things that are happening right now? Maybe they have the ability to predict the future. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm looking at the past performance of an investment manager. How do I choose funds? Often it's based on their past performance. So I'll look at who's done well in the past because that tells me they know something that maybe I need to know. Then I look at past performance, and reality is the investing industry is often advertising their past performance and talking about how great they are. I did a thing on TV one time where I was looking at all these different websites of financial firms. They were all number one in investing research, all number one at different times. So it was kind of meaningless when you think about it. So what I'll do is I'll look at all these different websites and I will be overloaded. I have information overload is what I call that. And then I just go, forget it. I don't know what to do. I'm confused. And I might make an emotion-based decision. I will invest based on fear or on greed, or I just trust this person, like I said before, because they're nice or whatever, or loyalty. Then what happens is I end up breaking the rules of investing. And we think about this, there are lots of rules that you already know, and typically what happens, we break the rules, we end up with a situation where I have performance losses. Now, here's the tricky part. You may not be losing money. You may actually be making money. Your portfolio may do this, and you don't recognize that you should have done that your return should have been higher. That is what is called a relative loss. Now, how do we figure out whether maybe we're taking more risk than we ought to be taking, or that we're getting lower returns or whatever? What are any of these things right here? How do we figure this out? What we want to do is we want to look at the rules of investing as you know them and find ways to sneakily check up on the advisor. How do we do that? Well, or the fund company or whoever, your 401k. Well, number one, we got to think about what the rules are. We know that as we invest, we want to, as people often, I'll ask them, what's the first rule of investing that comes to mind? It's buy low, sell high. Okay, so that's the first rule that we think about. Well, often when we choose investments, I'll ask people, how do you choose investments? They'll go, well, I'll look at the performance history. Oh, what do markets do? They go up and they go down. Where was the performance history good? Right here to here. So I'm doing what? I might be buying high. Oops, that might be a problem. If your investments were chosen based on past performance, you could be buying high and actually sabotaging your portfolio. So think about that. Number two, what's another rule of investing? Well, we often know that we shouldn't be picking stocks, trying to figure out which stocks are better than others. When I pick a stock, I think the company's really good. I'm basically saying that company I think is really good is willing to pay me more to use my money in the future. That doesn't make sense. When you think about it, if a company's really great, they probably don't have to pay much to use your money. So we think about stock picking and go, well, how do I know that I am stock picking? Well, you can look at a couple things. You can look at turnover ratios inside of mutual funds. How often do they change the stocks? If you have a 70% turnover ratio inside your mutual fund, that means that 70% of the stocks are different than what the holdings were the year before. Or we can also look at the prospectus and read it and say, hey, what's the fund manager think their job is? Finding underpriced stocks, overvalued stocks, and choosing based on what's going on in the economy. Or there's typically language in the prospectus that tells us if the investment manager thinks that's their job. It's also called active management. Now, the next thing that we can think about is diversify. We know that we should diversify. I can spell. Diversify my portfolio. When we think about diversification, we know we don't want all our eggs in the same basket. Well, this is a little bit trickier to find because what I'm trying to do here is I might be looking at different funds that I own, and there's something called a style box that tells me what area of the market the fund is investing in. If, let's say, we have this box filled in on the fund, we have large companies, medium-sized companies, and small companies. And then you have value, blend, and growth. If I have this box filled in, that my mutual fund is basically investing in that particular box, that tells me it's large blend stocks. If I have another mutual fund that's investing in the US, let's say this is a US fund, and it's investing in the same box, I might have overlap. I might be owning the same stocks over and over again. It would be way better if you think about it if I own companies that are in different boxes. Maybe this bottom middle box or this top left box or this bottom left box. And then I want to be doing that in both US and international markets. So if we look at the style box, it tells us in general what area of the market the fund is investing in. It's a neat little way to check up on whether I'm really diversified. Now, another thing we can think about is market timing. And when we talk about market timing, we think about, okay, what is market timing? Market timing is any attempt to change your portfolio based on a prediction or a forecast about the future. If I'm going, man, I think the market's going to go down in the future, or my investment advisor is saying, I think you ought to just back off and put a little bit more money in cash right now and see how the market goes, or put a little bit more money in the market because I think the market's going to go up, and where they're changing your mix, it very well could be that they're market timing. Or if you see, let's say that your statement this year owns different funds, you own different funds than you did 3 years ago, or that there's a big change in the funds that you own, it could be that your investment advisor is market timing. They're gambling with your portfolio. Very well could be. So that's what I'm looking for, is I'm looking for signs that that is happening. Now, I gave you a lot here. If you want to look on my website, I have a section on there, paulwinkler.com/rules. And these are the rules. You can actually look, and this is what the guide looks like, and you can go through these things little by little, and I show you places online that you can look for information on your investments to determine whether you're breaking the rules of investing. It's a big deal, and it can be a huge deal in terms of return and the risk of your portfolio.